10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, Boone. Hey, everyone.
Happy Friday. How you doing?
Yeah, happy Friday. How's it going? Yeah, good. How are you guys?
Glad to get this hackathon started. Exciting to learn about challenges, and I'm not sure if are we waiting for Conor still?
Yeah, let's give him a nudge.
Happy Friday. We're excited to be here as well, me and my team.
Thanks for coming. Glad to see you, Matthias.
Hey, Matthias.
While we're waiting for Conor to join us, Elliot, maybe you can tell us about some of the latest things going on with your IDOs, and you guys got a lot of cool things happening at Occam right now. So
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually got like a little presentation, like it's not a boring one, I promise. It's like probably like 10 minutes, just about our challenges, what we've been up to, maybe a little intro on Occam if anyone isn't familiar with the project. So if I could share my screen. Okay, it's disabled.
right, yeah.
Cheers.
You should be made host now.
Cool.
Try
Okay.
again, please.
Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Cool. Is it full screen? Yeah.
Yep. Looks good.
Great. Yeah. So, I mean, you all know it's the Experiential Hackathon 2021. We're really, really pleased to be part of it. So I used to be a communications manager at the Cardano Foundation. And we actually, featured Ada Makerspace there in some of our blogs. The Marlowe, the Marlowe guides that you guys did were really, really cool on YouTube. So we're really pleased to be part of this hackathon. So I'm just going to quickly cover, what the OccamFi ecosystem is, why Cardano community-led hackathons matter to us, and a little bit about what our challenges are. We're sharing this deck afterwards because we also have some open positions for developers, and I've linked to those in the deck. So if anyone's interested in like a developer position, all Haskell devs, then we'd really love to hear from you. So OccamFi is a suite of DeFi solutions tailored for Cardano. It's designed to deliver launchpad capabilities, DEX tools, liquidity pools, and obviously the first component of our ecosystem, which a lot of you might be familiar is our launchpad. So the launchpad is called Occam Razor, and it's one of the first launchpads for Cardano. And we recently announced that CFund and Emergo and IOHK were back in our project. So it's really cool. We're seeing some really cool projects coming through, but we need more and we want them to be grassroots led. So we're really looking to like give resources to developers who are Cardano. So we've got, Occam Razor, as I've just talked about. We're also building out the Occam X DEX. So that's going to be a secondary market trading infrastructure where people who've built things and launched through Occam Razor can launch their tokens afterwards. We've got the OCC token, which is it's both a dual ERC20 and ADA native token at the moment. Eventually we'll be only using, when smart contracts become available through Alonso, we'll only be using the OCC version eventually. And we also have the Accelerator project, which I'm going to touch on a little bit at the end of this. But that's basically our incubator. We don't care what stage you're at. If you've got a really cool idea for building something on Cardano and you think that it could be turned into a DApp, an NFT project, or anything, maybe even just a module, we can help you take that. I wouldn't say take that to market, because I think that's a little bit too commercial. We can just help it make it a reality and make it used. So we're really looking for just to build anything useful for the Cardano ecosystem.
Awesome.
So maybe I could give a little bit about why Cardano as well. So I mean, let's look at today, right? I mean, I tried to send, because unfortunately sometimes I'm still forced to use the Ethereum network, and like gas it's ridiculous and it's becoming unusable. And I know that Ethereum have got some, you know, some pretty interesting developments on the horizon. You know, they've got layer 2 functionality, and they've got the optimistic roll-ups, is it called? I think it's like a side chain. But I actually think that we've got a low cost and rapid transaction time solution here right now with Cardano. And that's basically the impetus behind Occam. We want to get all these projects that need to build on Cardano and really help them so that we've got a flourishing ecosystem, and that Cardano can compete with other blockchains, you know, more quickly as soon as smart contracts come on board. And we really think that the fact that Cardano is implemented in Haskell and its formal methods and academic approach make it poised for longevity. So I think it's probably likely to be one of the you know, the leading smart contract platform in the future. And that's certainly why I got involved back in 2017 with Cardano, is because I previously worked in academia. I was an environmental science researcher, so something totally different. And Cardano's academic approach really stood out to me. I was studying a PhD at the time, and I was reading more papers from IOHK than I was about my actual research area. So I just thought, you know, I'm going to jump in and work in Cardano and blockchain. So I've always been like fully about, you know, Cardano, and I love how it's got this strong academic approach. We think that's going to make it probably, you know, the strongest. If you're going to build something, build it properly. And then finally, like things like we're on today, like the Cardano community has one of the best grassroots developer ecosystems. You only have to look at how full the forums are, the Cardano forums. And certainly when I was working at CF, we always knew that we were going to be held accountable by the community. You know, we always knew that the Cardano community was strong and would you know, pick up on things that needed improvement. And I think that's a really, really good place to start from a community and a strong basis on which to build. So I think we've pretty much covered this. Like, I think it's self-evident why we would want to back and be part of this hackathon. It's really cool. I can't wait to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. It's a shame we can't all do something in person with, you know, with there's still some restrictions, but I actually signed up today.
Someday soon.
Yeah, someday. I actually signed up for the in-person meetup in London for the Cardano Summit coming up next month. So I don't know if any of the people on this call ever come London way, but if you happen to be there, it'd be great to share a pint. And hopefully one day I'll get to the States and go to some meetups there. So during like this week, we have 2 challenges. I don't know if Connor's with us yet.
Yes, sir, I am here.
Yep.
Awesome. So Connor, I'll just introduce Connor to everyone. Connor is he's one of our technical leads at DeFi. So DeFi are an accelerator project. They came through the accelerator program, and we helped them with their launch. And Connor is also a technical writer at Occam as well. He's a member of the Plutus Pioneer program, and he knows a lot more about these challenges, the technical bits of these challenges than I do. So I'll just hand over to Connor and let him give an intro.
Yeah, so basically the flavor of these challenges are more in line with making testing and developing of different products, different modules within Plutus, and to a lesser extent Haskell, kind of easier for our developers, and then eventually, you know, for the community at large. Challenge 1 is specifically around ease of manipulation of addresses. I mean, I assume most people here have either gone through Plutus or are going through Plutus. I myself going through the second cohort right now. And so you've already had exposure to using the different emulators and then accessing wallets. And so the first challenge is centered around making it easier to handle wallets and handle that code within the Plutus testnet, or within the Plutus application backend, and handling that aspect. Because if you've used it before, you know that you're going to have to, load up the different modules in Haskell and command line, and then set up the wallets that way. There's a little functionality within the code itself that allows you to manipulate some things, but overall it's rather robust. And so it's focused on building up kind of that suite of tools to make it easier for people to do different things with different types of addresses on Cardano. Second challenge is for fee estimation, and that's rather straightforward. We're looking at different types of transactions. We're going to see a lot more different types of transactions coming out as we progress further into the field of smart contracts. So far, as we all know, it's just been simple, A to B, sending back and forth, really. But as we start to, take a look at the Ethereum ecosystem and see the different infrastructure that has been built on there, things like Aave, Compound, and even more complex bits of code that have been, put together, we want to see that on Cardano. We want to see it innovated on in Cardano, and to do so, we need, things like this, trying to understand, okay, if we set up something similar, to a lending contract or something like that, we need to kind of understand how, what the transaction fees are going to look like, and something that is easily able for us to, estimate in front. Because, if we're running through, tens of hundreds of different potential prototypes for code, we want to be able to quickly, cycle through how much this is, how much this is, how much this is, how much, and so we can kind of optimize based off of that. So that should hopefully kind of give an overhead view of challenge 1 and challenge 2.
I was having a little bit hard time hearing you, Conor, but in the recording, I'll make sure that the volume's turned up some. Did anyone here have any questions about, the challenges specifically?
No. I would probably say as well, just add that a long description of these are already on the Ada Makerspace website. So if you wanted to go and read the challenges in a bit more depth with some notes that Conor kindly provided, then yeah, it'd be all the information's on there. So yeah, there's Ada bounties for these. They're things that we really would love to see developed, love to see solved. And yeah, I don't think there's any particular
Can I ask a question? Why, for each challenge, why is it, just kind of in layman terms, why is it important to solve these, and exactly how would it be used on a user facing, how would someone be interacting with this as a user, challenge 1 and challenge 2?
Yeah, Elliot, do you want to answer these?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay. And Boone, is this better? Can you hear me better? Boone, can you hear me better? Is this good for audio?
Yeah, that's good.
To me, it was always good. So.
Okay, so so these are interesting because they're not necessarily user-facing. A person day-to-day interacting with contracts or walking through the Cardano ecosystem is not necessarily going to be interacting with challenge 1 and challenge 2. These are important because they help developers, specifically Plutus developers, manipulate code much better and then more efficiently output whatever products they're trying to do. It just makes it's just tooling to help put together code, test things faster. These two specifically deal more testing side and really just trying to experiment or help the ease of experimentation, and then help us figure out, how the contracts are working, and if we can try to break them better than trying to, constantly load up other stuff, which may take more time the other way.
Gotcha, that makes more sense. Thank you.
Cool, yeah, and I know that they were highly requested by our lead developer, Anne, who I think is as far through as you can be at the moment through the Plutus Pioneer program. So yeah, hopefully they help him out. I'm not really like from a pure technical background, so yeah, happy to defer to Conor on those questions. So just before like we finish and hand over to the next guys, just a few words about our accelerator incubator. So at the end of this week, we'll probably talk about it in a bit more depth. But there's a few things to remember. I think, you know, if you were thinking about working on one of those challenges, and as I say, all the info is on the Ada Makerspace site. But we make funding and support available for all stages of Cardano projects. And it's an easy way to take project through to launch, as we've already talked about. But moreover, the winners of the challenges or the people who come up with the best solution will get preferential access to take their project through the accelerator. So if you've got an idea for a DApp and you think you could solve one of those challenges, then we really love to work with you and take your project from like an ideation stage through to launch, or whatever success might look like for whatever you've got in mind. So yeah, there's also that up for grabs, and we work really closely with Emergo, IOHK, the C Fund. So yeah,
And
we'd
with
be
the
pleased to hear you.
accelerator, you're also really through your development challenges, you're trying to bring those developers to your startups that are in the accelerator. Am I correct? Creating kind of a ecosystem between the people who have the ideas and people who have the skills to develop them.
Exactly, yeah. So we've also got like a lot of IDOs which come through and a lot of projects which come through Occam Razor. A lot of those, you know, is one of our requirements that they already have a lot of components developed and for the Cardano blockchain. But they're always looking for like developer talent, and you know, for Haskell especially and Plutus, it's a real shortage, you know. So we'd really love to hear from anyone, even if you don't like even if you don't want to come up with a solution to one of those challenges, still reach out, like because yeah, we have a lot of demand for developers, and we know a lot of projects that have a lot of demand for developers. So there's
on the topic of the IDOs, you know, you're mentioning that that's when you're further along than the accelerator. What is kind of a minimum traction you're looking for in an IDO project?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think a lot of when we first like launched the Occam ecosystem, and maybe we didn't communicate it properly, but a lot of people thought that the accelerator would be a competitor to Project Catalyst. It's actually more of like a natural evolution from Project Catalyst. So Project Catalyst has been, you know, I've been involved in voting on Project Catalyst ideas and on the idea scale since its inception. And it's always been a fantastic platform for what I would call like idea validation. So you can put really, you know, early stage ideas on there, the community vote on whether it's needed or how useful it is. And then you can get some funds to take it to the next level. Once you've had like that ideation and that validation, and then you then look into bootstrap and build up, maybe increase the team, maybe increase your access to resources. That's where we feel that the accelerator would come in. And once you're at the end of the accelerator, so you've got like either a working product or a DApp or something like that, that's when you can look maybe at going into IDO, if that's, you know, the path that you wanted to take. I mean, not every project requires a token, so an IDO might not be suitable for that, but you know, there's still things that you can do in the accelerator. So anyone building for Cardano is welcome to join. And it's basically, we say at all stages. Obviously there has to be like a solid use case for the idea, and you know, some some evidence that it's needed and that it will work. But you know, if it's just like, if you're just a one-man band and you've got a great idea, don't be put off. Like, we'd still love to hear from you, because it doesn't matter what stage that you're in. So yeah, I would say that, you know, it's open to all, basically.
Well, last chance, anyone on the call have any questions about the challenges or the accelerator, or really anything that Occam's doing? All right. Well, let's keep the
be popping up in the week probably as well. And if you've got any questions, you can always reach out to me or Conor. I'm at Blockwriter on Telegram. And you know, you can contact Occam on our community Telegram channel as well. Also, just before I jump off, if anyone is looking, you know, to apply now to a developer role in the Cardano ecosystem, we're looking for senior backend core engineers, front-end engineers, and also just like a blockchain engineer generalist. So do check out our website. So thanks for the opportunity. Really looking forward to seeing what solutions are built. And thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you, Elliot and Conor, for your time today, and thank you all for five. All right, Kyle, are you ready?
Hey guys, yeah, let me get off mute. Sorry about that. I am ready. I'm gonna be able to share.
Do you have a slides, or do you want me just to show?
Yeah, no, I got some slides ready. Yeah.
Where
Yeah,
are
I
your
got some
sunglasses?
slides ready.
Kyle, where
So-
are your sunglasses?
They're close. They're right next to my pistols. They're good. Hey guys.
There we go.
Let me get this slide up into slide mode real quick.
Should have host controls now.
Okay, cool. I got that going. Let me see if I can add that. We'll go into
I see it.
view and present. All right, guys, thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so you know, I'm not going to get too much. Maybe I'll do a brief overview of Adosia. So what Adosia is it's a community-grown IoT project that I've been working on for a very long time, in parallel with the development of Cardano. And you know, a lot of you guys might know me as a avid community member, stake pool operator, but Adosia is really my core mission. And what I've got there now is a fully functional end-to-end IoT system where users can essentially create and define control systems via a GUI, use open hardware, and make things work. So they can create all kinds of things. I've got users all over the globe who are growing, you know, different plant products. They've got security systems. It's just basically a way to take a single piece of hardware and you can customize IO however you want via GUI. And my whole goal for peer-to-peer marketplace is to enable, you know, my customers in California or Canada to sell their implementations, if you will, how they grow a certain plant or implement a certain control system to other users around the world. So it's basically Legos plugged together, click, click, and it works. And so for Cardano, there's a lot of implementations that we have to add. And we've had on-platform token transactions happening for a while now. And Adosia is moving into actually integrating true utility. And so upon the verge of that, we had a Catalyst proposal for some very specific functionality that we needed to enable that. And a yield product was a yield from that was a product called Hydron. It's an open source platform. And it's enabled us to do very specific things that I'll share with you guys. But there's also very immediate needs that you guys can run and take with this platform to enable the Cardano community. So that's part of our primary initiative for competing in this space. We're not really going to get into too much of our IoT stuff. That's something we can look at later. We want to talk about Hydron, make sure the community is aware about it and developers are aware of it, because this tool you guys can run with now, and that can help you enable some of your endeavors that do not depend on Cardano smart contracts. So what is Hydron? You know, first of all, the Adosia mission is simply to leverage Cardano and IoT to enable economic opportunity. And what Hydron does is it enables custom application integration right into Cardano. So Hydron itself is basically a self-hosted node, and your application posts jobs to Hydron via API. And what Hydron will do is it's basically a tool to trigger actions on detecting ADA payment receipts. So essentially, you can also, issue a callback to your server if you detect an ADA payment, or you could drop a native asset if you detect an ADA payment. And so the architecture itself consists of 5 Docker containers, so it's really easy to deploy. And it doesn't require Cardano node at all. It currently relies on the BlockFrost API. We will be exploring how to add other implementations such as Dandelion and things that come on board, as we don't want to be dependent on one source, or require developers to be dependent on one source. And give you a high level of what the Hydron dashboard looks like is, you can kind of see a high level overview of what the system looks like. You view your pending and processing and error jobs, as well as your completed jobs. You can also see your server utilization as far as like your processor utilization or your memory and your disk utilization. So you get an overview of what's going on with your instance. And you can see the current Cardano CLI version. And that's the dashboard. And then Hydron also supports payment wallets. And so basically you'll create these payment wallets, and they're there just to accept data payments. That's the functionality. The keys are stored on your server, so they are hot. So you want to know that. So this node should be, you shouldn't have it public. It should be, you lock down just to your application, can only talk to it, and you want to take security measures there, and obviously not store a whole ton of crypto on there. And it will persist across Docker instances. So if we update or anything needs to happen, you guys can just bring it down, bring it back up, and your wallets will persist. Now, you also have drop wallets within Hydron. You can create and fund these drop wallets to hold native assets. There's a limitation that it only supports 1 native asset per drop wallet at this time. And that's pretty much it. You just specify a wallet and load it up, and it's ready to go. Okay, so you've got payment wallets and drop wallets set up. How do you use this? Basically, Hydron has 2 methods that it supports now. The first method is a track payment and callback method. So it's very simple, and they're named how it sounds. So this one tracks a payment and then kicks a callback to your server. So the way it would set up is your application would say, okay, I'm going to accept an ADA payment now. And so it kicks a call to Hydron and basically says, hey, Hydron, I want you to set up this track payment and callback. I want you to use this payment wallet. I want you to look for this exact expected Lovelace. You're going to generate a random number, and the millionths of Lovelaces, or ADA, the Lovelaces themselves, should be a unique string. So that's how you're going to identify it in your application. It's a random. You'll store that in a database on your side, so you don't duplicate that specific one while you're waiting for a certain payment. More problems that you come across in volume, but basically, and then you define your callback request. And your callback request has a URL webhook that comes right back to your application. Oops. You can set your request type, whether it's get or post, and you can put custom request parameters in there, like session IDs or user IDs, so you can know that that Hydron callback request is coming from that specific user. And then you set a cron on your side, on your app side, and monitor, or not even a cron. That's for another application that I'll tell you in a minute, but it'll do a callback to your server, and I guess you can then do a cron, and then look for that, and then present your user with the result or the next step in your application process. So for high level, if I'm getting too technical, this will allow any application to accept Cardano payments. Your application says accept data. Okay, cool. It displays a user address and the QR code. So if you see the addresses over here, you've got QR codes for each of your address. You just take those and put them in your application. And that's what you show your user to pay. You come up with the custom amount, ADA plus the custom dust. You derive that with your application, store that in your database, then send the job to Hydron. And then Hydron will kick it back and let you know that it's been paid with the callback. And so then that's very easy implementation to kind of implement ADA payments. Now, this method is very specific. What it does is the inbound payment UTXO, it's not touched at all. All Hydron does is look for the payment and then issue the callback. It doesn't do anything whatsoever with the UTXO. And that's important to remember because it's different from this next callback, which is track payment and drop asset. So this specific one is just a little bit different. This method, what you'll do is you'll just define the method type of track payment and drop asset when your app calls Hydron to post the job. You'll specify a payment wallet name. You'll also specify the drop wallet name. You'll specify the expected Lovelace amount that you're looking for to accept. And then once the drop occurs, what you're going to do is you're going to define the policy ID of the drop asset, the asset name itself, how many are going to be dropped, and the receiver address to drop that too. Now, this works a little bit differently than track payment and callback, because what this does is no matter how much ADA is sent to the payment address, all of it is sent back to the end user. So this is not going to enable ICOs directly, but essentially it's a way for you to have users prepay for dust, and that's kind of the precursor to that. So there's room for improvement to the methods, and we can get in that into some of the challenges. But kind of moving through this, just to give you an idea how Adosia is using Hydron right now. So accepting ADA payments, that's very simple. That's the track payment and callback. And so we've got custom IoT triggering when a user sends a payment, right? We can issue, IO on a certain device to do something. What we can also do is we use it for, SaaS subscriptions, which is pretty straightforward. And then, individual a la carte upgrades on the platform, and as well as on platform token purchases. So the way we enable token sales, or will enable token sales, very shortly here, is users will just go ahead and buy them on the site. The tokens will be credited to the platform, and that method itself is track payment and callback. And then we can subsequently very much immediately enable the users to withdraw them using the track payment and drop asset method. So there's a lot of things you guys can do with this. We're also doing a token distribution kind of mechanism where users can come in, enter stake addresses, and based on hundreds and hundreds of different pools, it's simple criterion, they're being awarded tokens, and they can kick off token withdrawals that way too. So that's the other way we're kind of using it. And then, so there's immediate applications and call to actions. And one of the things we're seeing is we need to enable in the community various organizations to accept donations for ADA and issue an email receipt. Maybe do some cool user tracking. So that will help our mission-driven community kind of initiatives go. And it's a tool they can use right now. And we're willing to incentivize you guys to do that. And so another tool would be like a native asset drop tool for groups, members, or contests. If you guys check out like the Space Coins faucet, it's just a simple native asset faucet that you guys can, developers can help implement, that communities can run with. And, we've got another challenge too. We'll show you guys in a minute. But the key takeaway, what we're looking for in the challenges that we present today, is we want the developers to develop the application front end open source to enable a specific overall application, which relies on Hydron on the back end. So like in the case of challenge 1, we want to see it build an open source donation platform. So the front end, maybe it's, hey, I want to give my name, and yes, you can keep my information, and here's my email for my receipt. Okay, present me where I need to send this ADA, and then, use the Hydron call, track payment and callback method and figure that all out. And then we can package it as something and just give it to everybody, and then rock and roll. We're kicking tail. And so this specific challenge, the core app set up a Hydron track payment and callback job. Then Hydron's going to call back the core donation app to issue or email the receipt. But the platform should enable the community to accept ADA donations and capture donor contact info. That's ideal. That's going to be more likely to put you in a contender for first place. And obviously email donor receipts. That's a big requirement on that one. And the prizes first, second, and third, 300,000, 200,000, and 100,000 Adosia tokens. And those are our native asset. They will be, we begin distributing those within a matter of weeks as we bring our platform online and tie all that together. And so from there.
And those ADO is the utility token.
That's correct. That's Adosia's utility token. And at time of receipt, you will have true utility. So this is not Adosia will build, this is we have built.
Yeah, you have something you can actually use them for. It's awesome.
That's right. Okay, and so our challenge number 2 is we want to see an open source native asset drop platform with Hydron. And I guess, let's just do a faucet. Let's enable some faucets or something like that. So users can create their own assets and provide a tool so other users can access them. Oh, sorry. And the prize is there, 200,000, 100,000, 50,000 ADO respectively for first, second, third prize. And our final slide challenge is going to be a Hydron expansion challenge. So if any of you guys want to get feisty, Hydron is in Laravel, it's PHP code base. You know, let's maybe add a track asset payment and callback job. So we've got track payment and callback, but we don't have a track asset payment and callback. So what's that? That would be like receiving a native asset and payment and then doing something cool with it, right? That's something we could use. Or maybe another method that's like a track payment and drop asset and callback. Because right now the track payment and drop asset's not issuing a callback. So there's various methodologies that we can add to this to enhance feature sets. So I'm going to leave that open to you guys. You guys be creative. You kind of get the idea of what we're trying to do. And the prizes there are 500,000, 250K, and 100,000 ADO respectively. And I believe that is the final slide. There is a link to this presentation that's going to be on our virtual booth, a link to the Adosia site. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. The fastest way to reach me is on Telegram. My handle is Adosia Wolf, ADOSIAWOLF. Thanks, guys. That's all I have. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it. Open up the floor. Anyone have some questions about Hedron?
I guess I asked just in a silence. It's not related to challenges, but this Adosia, that name is quite nice. Is there a story behind how this name came from?
Yeah. I raised a wolf and his name was Adosia. He was my bro. Yeah.
He was your brother. Where'd you find that wolf?
I got him in the desert in Phoenix for $100. And he was cool as hell, man. And I had his kids. I still got 2 of his kids, but yeah, so I had a wolf pack for a while. But yeah, no, it was just a different kind of animal. My brother, you know, he was there for a while. You know, I had to say goodbye not too long ago, but I named my business after him. And it's a story. Yeah.
How did you, did he already have that name when you bought him, or did you name him?
No. I got him as a puppy in college, and his real name was Doja the Chronic Wolf. And I gave him an A, you know, a little bit later, just kind of make it more professional. Really want to know.
I had a couple of questions. One of the things that you mentioned about Hedron is that it doesn't rely on Cardano CLI, but it relies on block frost. So
No.
a little bit of explanation.
Yeah. It doesn't rely on Cardano node. It does rely on Cardano CLI, absolutely. So Cardano CLI should be upgraded, doesn't have to be upgraded with every version, but we're gonna kind of push it forward on major changes. We'll push it over on the Alonzo hard fork and things like that. But yeah, so and it's pretty simple on that front. But basically, it's nodeless. So there's no Cardano node version, and internally within Hydron, it uses the Block Frost API. So you will need a Block Frost API key. So you'll sign up for blockfrost.io, get your API key. There's free, services for apps that are starting out, but essentially that's what's interacting with the node. That's what's submitting transactions to the node. That's what's querying the node to watch for transactions and things like that. So it's a nodeless implementation. So users who use this do not need to run Cardano node. All they got to do is pull down Hydron and they're good to go. Everything in Hydron is already included.
And then so the any type of updates in the network or anything won't be affected by what you implement on Hedron really wouldn't then be affected with
that's not necessarily true. For example, I've got to look and see where the block frost is. You definitely want to be kind of up to date with what's going on, especially after we do big things like hard forks into new errors and things like that, because
absolutely
certain, the submit commands pretty unilateral across the board, but you should be able to build, for the most part, build and sign transactions using the same version and then submit. But there are certain cases where maybe like text in a build is changed or a param has changed. That's maybe there's an error mismatch. But I'd have to look at that. Yeah, for now it's something more that we would maintain. But yeah, you would want to regularly, if you're running a Hydron app in production, yeah, you would want to maintain it. It's very easy. You just bring down your Docker container and do the updates and bring it right back up. So it's a quick kind of implementation across version changes. If that makes sense.
Would you be open in Challenge 3 to a Dandelion integration so that you can be more open source compatible and reduce reliance on Block Frost?
Well, yeah, I mean, I said that in my presentation. Well, I mean, that's what we want to do. So if somebody wants to go ahead and run with it, the reason we really hadn't, discussed it, James and I have had some discussions there, and it's dead set. We want to do that. That is something that needs to be done. So if somebody wants to come in and do a Dandelion integration, yeah, that's a Hydron expansion challenge. I think that's amazing, and it gives us exactly what we want. Less reliance on a centralized party. Absolutely.
Super. Thanks.
Do it, Randall.
Do it.
Anyone else? Questions, feedback, random thoughts?
Yeah, random thoughts. Does anybody? Yeah, feedback would be good too, guys. I know I'm a little all over the place. I'm not sleeping much these days.
It always helps to have outside eyes on what you're working on. So thoughts are always appreciated.
Are you all doing a IDO for the ADO?
We haven't done anything yet. So my plan now is, distribution's a big deal, and we've got utility. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm heading off ISPOs in a way. And so we're launching within a matter of days. A system where any stake pool delegators, if you're delegating to a stake pool that has fees between 1.75 and 6% larger than 50K pledge and was registered before the Merry Hard Fork, then you're eligible. And we're looking back 100 epochs, and it's basically a loyalty kind of thing for users who have been staking with community pools. And so those withdrawals are going to be enabled, and we're going to do incentives on that. And that's going to get some distribution out there for us. But as far as the sale, since we have utility, we've got legal go ahead to basically do a sale in the US, but we're going to do it a little bit different. What I want to do there is basically a hardware sale and have users be able to buy hardware in bulk with the option to donate that hardware, and they can still get the tokens, right? And then so what we can do is we can enable some programs. What I really want to do is figure out how to do self-contained grow systems in Africa and places where people really need food. But what's cool is that we can do these peer-to-peer marketplaces, and if we can come up with a profile mechanism that really works, we can enable a economic opportunity for these geographies or villages or wherever we implement this technology to be able to sell those different implementations globally. So that's kind of where I want to go with it, or where I'm thinking. But if an IDO, we can maybe talk. I really haven't looked at the IDO, and to be honest with you, I didn't really understand how it made sense, but I'm happy to have those conversations if that makes sense. And that's mostly probably my ignorance to everything, because I've got my head so far into what I'm doing.
Very cool. I love the vision that you're painting.
There's a lot going on in the ecosystem. Hard to keep up with everything these days.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it. And Adosia support. Well, Ron, are you ready to go a couple minutes early?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm ready.
Well, then let me get you access here.
Rights to share the screen. Or Kyle, you gotta stop sharing.
I took it from him.
Oh, okay, cool.
Thief.
Yeah. You got it now, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm Ron Hill. I am a co-founder and a board member of SPOCRA, and as well as CEO, which I like to say is the chief of enthusiasm and optimism for what we're doing. I'm really just I'm the guy that like, hey, I want to do this. Okay, so I'm putting all my time and effort in, not all of it, but a lot of it. So that's what I'm here for. So SPOCRA, for people that don't know, it's an organization that we formed due to a need in the ecosystem. So SPOCRA, it stands for Stake Pool Operator Collective Representation Assembly. And yeah, that's a big mouthful right there. But really what it is it's an entity within the Cardano ecosystem where stake pool operators can go and voice what issues they're having. And we as a collective can bring this to the other entities in the Cardano ecosystem. And it's been a great place for me to learn like the tools and the skill sets that I need. So it's primarily we're focused on education right now. And that's one of the biggest needs that we saw. So initially starting out, like you had all these Telegram groups, like Discord channels, and it was kind of like obscure places where you had to go to find out like, okay, how do I set this up? And like a stake pool, and how do I make sure that I'm not going to lose all my ADA? Because like there's still people losing ADA. If you're not using property security practices, then it's really easy to lose. Like, so we recognize that, and there were a lot of us that in the beginning, we like as soon as we figured out like what we were doing, like we're like, okay, like there's all these newcomers coming in. How do we help these people? And so really it was all the people that were already helping stake or potential stake pool operators to get set up. We banded together and we formed a trade association. So it's funny because Charles actually made a video about like, okay, for stake pool operators, there should probably be a trade association for every good endeavor in industry. There's a trade association, right? So we were like, hey, we're already here. And then literally like within 24 hours, we responded with, well, yep, we're already here. We've been organizing. We have a Discord server, and like everybody jumped in, and we formed what is SPOCRA. So we went through like a pretty long voting process. So we wanted to make sure that everyone was included. We got like we took, it was a process over a couple months. So we sent out notifications. We kept trying to put the word out in different platforms. We even got banned in some platforms because we were putting some advertisements for the voting, but it's whatever. I mean, we just wanted to make sure that we were including everybody, right? So at this point, we have 7 board members. These are really dedicated people that they want to ensure that the backbone of the network, the SPOs are being heard, they're being supported, and we're decentralizing the network. Because when you think about it, who is Cardano? We are the SPOs, the people. So SPO, what is that? Stake pool operator. Operator means that there's somebody behind that node, right? Who's running that? A person, right? So if we go to a point where we have a lot of centralized, like big conglomerate entities that just like they spawn up and they have like lots of pools, that's in some ways that's not really like what SPO was intended for, right? So
absolutely.
So we're here to help establish an equilibrium, because I mean there's a place for the large enterprise stake pool operations, but there's also we need to have something where individuals can thrive in this ecosystem. So that's one of our missions, and our vision is that we be a trusted ally of stake pool operators. So they can come to us and know that, hey, like I have this issue and I can't get this done, or I have this technical problem. They can come to us, and we're already offering education and advice. And so we want to provide the tools to help individuals succeed. Okay. So let me go over the challenges that we have for this hackathon. So these are pretty simple challenges, but they're crucial to us to getting what we're trying to do for SPOCRA. And they're kind of just like the first steps. So our first development challenge is to implement a simple user interface for onboarding SPOs, so that you have to have a verification process to make sure that the operator behind the stake pool is who they are, or who like. So when you think of like a stake pool operator, how do you know that like that person actually runs that pool? Because anybody can spin up a pool, and you can even have like pools with the same name, right? And I think actually we saw this, the community did, when an enterprise level operation spun up, and then they had 3 initial pools, and then the 4th one, somebody took the name, and everybody started delegating to that, and really like that wasn't even the enterprise that was running that pool. So verification of like the stake pool itself and like the operator that's running it is crucial. So I think this has already actually been solved through the work of other individuals in the ecosystem, but we would like to create like a way that we can use what was created. So I have here SIP 22. So SIPs are Cardano improvement proposals. So this is the development work of Andrew Westberg. I mean, he's one of like the titans in our ecosystem. He's been offering so much of his skills and expertise to the ecosystem. It's incredible. So I have here just like a simple flow. So it's just the SPO joins on our site. Right now we're using a Mighty Networks platform, and then they would request to join either the apprenticeship program or the operators group or the owners group. So at that point, then we need to do our verification. So I don't know if this looks like something that's on the website that we're using now, or if this is something where we have the ability to add links into the Mighty Network. But I've actually had some talks with the development team of Mighty Network. So they're open and they're receptive to new ideas. So if we could build something within the platform that we're using right now, that'd be cool. But that's not a need. We can. I'm really open for whatever creative front end stuff that we do to implement this SPO verification process. So that's challenge number 1. Oh, I actually have a little bit more here. So this goes in a little more detail of the verification steps of SIP 22. So we're really using Cardano Node CLI to utilize like the verification that's kind of already there. So we have the VRF key that so you can have a server that so you basically send out a challenge, and then here, I'll just read the steps. The stake pool operator sends their pool ID and the public pool VRF key to the validating server, right? So then the validating server, they validate the VRF hash is in the pool's registration certificate. And long story short, the validating server validates the signed challenge response. So here I have an example pool perks that they have this. They have an application where they're already implementing this, and they've been testing it and using it, and it works. So we'd like to do something similar to this. And if we can do this, like I said, on the Mighty Networks platform, that would be pretty awesome, but it's not a need. We can do something off of that so that SPOs can verify. For the second challenge, we have more verification. So this is verification of requirements So this isn't comprehensive right here. This is just kind of an example. As we get into this challenge, and if people are engaged and want to work on this, and we'll go into more details, but basically it's SPOs when they're going to join different membership levels. So that's like, are you an operator, or are you the owner, or is there some kind of partnership? We have different. You can't put everybody in the same level, right? Like some people don't have the technical know-how that an operator does. Like there's partnerships that form where there's owners, and they're just like, okay, I just want to partner with somebody that does have those technical chops and run the pool. But basically it's pretty simple. It's just, do they have the minimum number of blocks produced? Because anybody can just spin up a pool, right? But if you're in it and you're running your pool and you're serious about it, okay, let's see how many blocks you produced. That's the first thing. And then membership fee, I put that there, but honestly, we don't really know if this is going to be like a membership fee or how this is going to be structured. We just want to make sure that there's revenue coming in that is being used for continuing to build out SPOCRA. So this could be a fee, or this could be like some other mechanism where we collect revenue, but did they pay for the service that we're offering, right? So it's this is like the vision of what we're building is it's an apprenticeship program where operators come in and they go through the courses, they do the training, they get the skills, they verify, or they prove that they have the competency in those skills. And then once they've, so I have down here, like the operator, they completed the apprenticeship courses test successfully. Once they've done that, how do we verify that? And is this a smart contract, or is this some other method? So that's what this challenge is about here. And then for the third challenge, this kind of just goes along with the same theme that we have here. So it's all about once the operator or individual goes through that apprenticeship program, or for like the owners, did they go through like their verification process? How do we show other people that they've been certified? So first thing that came to our mind was an NFT badge to show that, like, yep, this pool right here, they've been through it, they're certified. So now they can represent to the rest of the Cardano ecosystem and community that they've been through SPOCRA, they're a SPOCRA certified member. So this is probably a smart contract, because we want to ensure that if the pool, if it changes owners, then we need to make sure that we go, like, whoever is the owner now needs to go back through to verify, like, because that pretty much removes all of that that you got to be certified in the first place, right? So so this is probably a smart contract that is contingent upon the requirements being met, and that those requirements are still being maintained. So this is a little bit bigger challenge, and I have a lot of space open here. So this will be on the virtual booth. I'll be adding stuff as we go along and as people start engaging with it. So if there's any questions, I'll be there during the entire hackathon. So feel free to reach out, and then yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I had one question real quick. On challenge 3, it seemed that it would also kind of be dependent on challenge 2 in some ways.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Actually, all the challenges are dependent. Like, so the first challenge, actually the second challenge is dependent on the first one. So we have to complete the first challenge before we can go on to the second and third.
Gotcha. Floor is open. Anyone have questions, feedback?
And I forgot to mention, and I didn't put it in here, but the prizes for each of the challenge are space coins. So those are actually a utility token that was created for education purposes. So it kind of fits in our niche of what we're doing. I mean, most of what SPOCRA does is in the education realm. So yeah, right there you can see. So we have 25,000 space coins for each one of these challenges. We actually have 100,000 in total. So I guess
25, yeah, 25K is of space coins is going to be divided between people who just participate in the hackathon too. So even just spending time contributing feedback and comments to people's ideas and just being helpful generally during the hackathon will get you some space coins. So.
That's right. We got a quiet bunch in here today. Who do we got? We got Randall usually starts saying stuff. Randall, what's going on? Elliot Hill. I don't know if I know you. Jacob, hey. Quinn, what's happening? There's a bunch of people up in here. Felix, hoo-hoo. Let's go to Felix.
What would I do have a couple more questions. So on your challenge 2, because I'm just kind of putting pieces together in my mind here, it seems like some of these things could be solved also with headrun, right? So I mean, like in a way, someone could plug together a couple of these challenges and come up with a solution leveraging other challenges. Does that make sense, Kyle? I mean, am I
100%?
Some of these
100%.
things be accomplished through what you're talking about, how headrun verifies, different assets using block frost and.
Yeah, will you guys let double dipping happen? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, double dip all you want, Randall.
But yeah, I mean, come on, me and Ron work real closely together. Yeah, we're gonna be easy. Look, I'll tell you what, y'all knock this stuff out of the park and you take care of the community, there could be like bonuses sprinkled, like this is.
I was gonna say that.
I want everybody to engage. And we wanted to start Hydron as a first step, as a good idea because it can serve a lot of use cases. Not everybody needs smart contracts where you've got to, for those, it's kind of hard to decipher for those that really don't understand. But when you're dealing with kind of like in most cases, a trusted party, you can kind of get away from the whole I need a smart contract. And anything in the commercial sense kind of falls into trusted party. Now, obviously, there's specific implementations where that doesn't make sense, like supply chain. But for the most part, smart contracts, they're not always needed. So there's a lot of applications is what we're saying, where we found a need to be able to easily distribute and manage, payment and tracking and asset dropping. So yeah, totally. If you guys can come up with creative ways to double dip and do one thing, like a Hydron implementation that's a method that advances Hydron and takes care of Ron at the same time, SPOCRA, that's why we're here, Yeah,
and I think you touched on
That's
a
right.
thing, Kyle, that people need to remember that the value in Cardano blockchain is not just smart contracts, right? That we're talking about an immutable ledger that exists that you can have native assets on and do a lot of things with that don't ever require smart contracts, but still gets all the value that Cardano offers.
Well, they exist independently, and that's important. That was done for a reason, and it's a very, 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 very interesting implication. I mean, it changes kind of the way the menu TXO model works. We've got a lot of business models that are going to require the user prepay for the withdrawal, because every native asset that gets sent has a menu TXO value that's attached to it. In the case of space coins, 1.48148 ADA has to go out with every set of space coins, no matter how many number there are, assuming it's going to a single UTXO. And so the issuer has to send that. So the way the space coins faucet works naturally, you can check that out at faucet.spacecoins.io, is somebody will send 58 or 2 ADA to the address presented. And then what the faucet does, it detects that ADA coming in and it says, okay, what I'm going to do is then send 1.5 ADA back along with the 50 space coins. So that covers the min UTXO, the users requesting the withdrawal. That model is going to be extremely popular. And then, you know, what we're doing with the rest is burning transaction fees and then donating to Save the Children Fund with balance. But, you know, there can be models that you guys maybe think about implementing where you're batching transactions. You know, you're not doing them all at once, things like that. You can do improvements. But yeah, that's kind of the concept there from a faucet perspective.
Very cool. Any other questions, feedback about SPOCRA's challenges, or in general, again, any random thoughts or feedback for Ron about SPOCRA?
Yeah, you're amazing.
Woohoo. I've been putting that in my songs lately, so just so you know, I'm stealing.
Randall, if you're itching and maybe looking at Hydron and thinking about it and thinking about how you might double dip, definitely reach out to me. Let's have a conversation, because I kind of looking at doing a Fund 6 proposal specific to that. You know, how we got this going is we leverage community developers, and I didn't put really any code myself into Hydron. That was done by Lathisan, who is heading up the Token.io project. And so if you think that that's something maybe you want to do or whatever, I'm happy to go in. We'll get a proposal done, and we can, you know, get some ADA coming your way to continue building on that after this challenge if you want to explore that. Or that goes to anybody who wants to explore building on that.
I am absolutely in a position to support that initiative and contribute guidance and project management. And I will not be expecting to have the time to do actual development work, but I'm happy to serve an enablement role.
Okay, yeah, let's chat. We can chat. We don't need to do it here, but yeah, thank you, man.
And so I think that honestly that mentioning Fund 6 is a great lead into really our next presentation from Swarm. So Jakob, are you going to be leading that discussion?
I will be leading that discussion, yes. So thank you for the introduction.
And do you need
I need hosting rights.
Yep. All right, just a second.
Not just co-host, host.
Are we going to listen to some smooth jazz again?
Oh,
of course. Yes. No, actually, I didn't prepare any music for today.
Oh man, I need some music.
Oh,
I got some bongos over here. Will that help? Or
oh, nice.
It'd be all yours, Jacob.
Perfect. So. All right.
Man, you look professional.
You again
Thank
hovering.
you. Tried it for the first time.
It looks awesome,
at
dude.
Town Hall. It's a really cool feature here, which is quite new, I think, in Zoom. So I can just recommend you guys to try it out.
You're
All
still
right.
hovering. You're still hovering, though.
I'm still hovering. Yeah. Okay. Maybe a bit lower.
Nah, that looks really good. It looks really good.
Yeah, you're like our little personal bobblehead or something.
Yeah. And you don't even need to download something. It's
All
in the
right, guys,
Zoom
let him do his presentation.
setting.
All right. So I was thinking, like, just spontaneously, before I really start, I would like to also get to know you guys a bit more, because depending on who is really here in the call, I would maybe change what I say tiny bit. So are any people here who weren't that much in contact with the Catalyst or Cardano ecosystem so far? So maybe completely different background, just general knowledge about blockchain, but not that much in the Catalyst ecospace. Do we have maybe maybe you can raise your hands if
Yeah, I was
this
gonna
is
say maybe
maybe
use
a bit
the
newer.
raise hand thing or something to roll call.
That would be great.
Isn't there a poll option in here?
Because I would also like to talk to in my presentation a bit about Project Catalyst. And depending on if everybody is kind of already involved in Project Catalyst, I mean, I don't have to be that foundational.
I would cover everything a little bit just because this is going to be evergreen on the YouTube Data Maker channel. And so lots of people will probably be watching this after the meeting today.
All right. All right. Okay. So, yeah. So let's get into it. So it's about the Swarm mentorship introduction and a small guide into the Catalyst ecosystem. So what will I be try to cover today, or what's the general idea? So we, as the Swarm, and I will come to that, are supporting now this event here and try to integrate the new ideas that come up during the event into Project Catalyst a bit. And so what we will be going through is now a bit the idea of what really Project Catalyst is, that you know, okay, which space we are in, then who we are basically, so what the Catalyst Swarm is, and then about you, how all of you guys and girls fit into it, and how we can proceed together and create something beautiful. So what is Project Catalyst? I brought this image here, and it has a background. It's a bit originated from a talk from Charles, who said that Project Catalyst, or the whole governance of Cardano, is an evolutionary mechanism. And Catalyst itself is a governance experiment or experiments on the Cardano blockchain. And right now it is not on chain, but it will be in future. And the principle is pretty easy. So every 12 weeks, there are funds that are going to be distributed by community votes. And these funds started last year, very, very small. And each week or each iteration, the funding size got bigger. So we just went through Fund 5, which were, I think, $2 million in ADA value. And now upcoming is Fund 6. And Fund 6 will be very interesting for all of you who are participating now in the hackathon, because there's the potential to get funding from Project Catalyst. What is the principle behind the governance structure? So it's basically that all ADA holders vote on projects that are in these funds. And the goal of these funds is basically to accelerate the Cardano ecosystem. So to grow the Cardano ecosystem, to build on the Cardano blockchain. And there are different challenges within these funds that people can write proposals to, and then apply, pitch their proposals, and see if the community accepts it and votes with their ADA. And yeah, so this fund is also going to be very interesting. We have a lot of challenges, and over the time you will maybe get to know them. But what is the Catalyst Swarm? So as I said, I'm a Swarm representative, and I'm part of a group. It's a community-driven grassroots initiative that supports Cardano in its mission to build a universal decentralized system that provides access to a global society and economy. And in this call are also a few other Swarm members. Maybe you can say hi. So Tevo's here, and Felix is here, and Steven is here, and maybe even more, I don't know.
I'm a Swarm member too.
Yeah. And
there.
and so basically it's a collection of just people who work in the ecosystem, also developers and tool makers, maintainers, so different people who come together on Saturdays and show what they have been doing, and ideating together with other people working on stuff together. And so what we are trying to do is create formats that are always suitable to what is really needed in the Cardano ecosystem, to bring people together, to work together, to share insights. And we have different formats. So we already hosted an Idea Fest, and there's a regular format each week, the town hall, and we host the after town hall, for example, where people share their insights in breakout rooms. So if that sounds interesting for you, you can join us each Saturday. But how are we going to proceed now together? Do we bring all of this together? The hackathon, Catalyst Swarm, and the Catalyst project. So right now, we are in the kickoff phase, right, where it's about to get to know the ideas and the teams that are already here in this call, and that will be part in the points afterwards, where you have the opportunity to pitch your idea, whatever that might be, if it's a startup or if it's an MVP, etc. Right, and then in the beginnings phase, so the hackathon is until the 29th of August. We want to create, depending on what you really need, we could provide formats where you can get to know more about the project Catalyst. So how to write proposals, what's that all about? And yeah, depending on what you really what kind of needs you have, we can help there. Then in the midterm, it will be more about sharing insights. So there are, as I mentioned already, different formats in the Cardano ecosystem, and it would be great if the working results and the insights that you already created during the time here then could be shared in these formats and ideate together also with people who weren't a part of the ADA Makerspace Hackathon so far. So we have that, for example, the town hall, after town hall, also swarm sessions and different other formats. And at the end, which would be really great, and is if maybe some ideas that are already here come out as proposals for Fund 6, because Fund 6 is going to start, I think it already starts next week, but the proposal phase starts at August 19th. So during the hackathon, you will have the opportunity to already start to work on something that can be funded in the project Catalyst ecosystem, which would be really great, I guess, for all of you guys. And the other outcome could be like to produce a video or presentation at the end that the insights and what have been learned throughout this process can be shared. So that's basically what we kind of try to envision here and help to accomplish in the ADA Makerspace Hackathon. And I think now we can already start with the pitching of the ideas. And I brought some questions with me that can be thought food. And everyone who would like to pitch an idea, take 1 or 2 minutes, look at these questions, take some notes, maybe what you envision to have to pitch here. And then we have a short pitching phase. Depending on how many people here are, we can make it a bit shorter or longer, where you can answer these questions. And then hopefully other people are interested and want to jump in on these ideas, ask questions, work together on it. And so this is just a starting phase. So maybe we can do a short timeout. What do you think, Boone?
Yeah, well, I thank you for a great presentation. And I also, just really encourage people, whether you're, thinking about building a business or whatever, or you're just a developer thinking about, creating a tool or, whatever that is, this is really an opportunity to have very, constructive feedback from people with lots of different experience of development in the ecosystem. So if you're thinking about doing a Fund6 proposal, this is a great way, like Jakob mentioned, that you can really begin to refine that idea before you even make that proposal. So instead of putting a proposal up in Project Catalyst and then receiving all that critical feedback when people poke all the holes in it, this is a safe environment to have holes poked in your idea now. So that way, when you go to present it to people, it can be flushed out and, well thought out. So I just encourage, anyone that's thinking about a Fund6 idea, now's the time to share it, talk about it, get some feedback, and find out what it is that you need to refine to, really get to that successful proposal.
So we see a first hand here. Matthias.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity and stumble over my own words. So there's this idea that I've been having for a while, and apologies in advance, it's not a concise pitch yet, but to address the 3 questions here. So the problem that I'm solving is that the dispute resolution space, so think about, court, but outside the court, so mediation, arbitration, those types of things, it really suffers from an antiquated reputation module. So you have the who knows who kind of thing. There are some ethical dilemmas in the process of finding a dispute resolution specialist, and then also for those specialists to get new clients. And overall, there's really very little use of helpful technologies. So to give you more concrete ideas, mediation is, I'm not too familiar about how much you know about mediation, but to give you a brief intro. So mediation is a process where it allows conflicting parties to come up with solutions on their own with the help of at least in the West, neutral third party, right? But the problem that people have with selecting a mediator, there's many. I'm going to reduce this presentation, I guess, to the most important one. The first and obvious one is the trust of credentials. First of all, the profession of a mediator, it's not a profession where you say, hey, I am, for example, an electrical engineer. Well, you're an electrical engineer or you aren't, right? Usually that's all engineers. You cannot just say you're an engineer and you will have not any problems without backing that up. Software engineers is the only engineer really where you can say, yeah, I'm a software engineer, right? So the same actual problem applies to mediators as well. So now there are programs. So for example, universities have dedicated programs for dispute resolution, and there's usually also a mediation track, mediation program. Some cities have mediation programs. There's some nonprofits, etc. Right? So those organizations are in a position to say, okay, this person went through the program, and they're a trusted mediator. We believe, they're credentialed, they are fit to hold a mediation and help parties to come to a solution, right? And that is obviously very easily solvable with blockchain technology, maybe with a Taller Prism, for example, right? Then there's other problems, like the whole mediation process is really to start, right? And that comes just with old technology. You have organizations that just list directories, and now the parties who have to agree on one mediator have to essentially call down the list and say, hey, are you available for this type of mediation? It's terrible. And that's not a property that blockchain essentially has to solve with just use of using technology, right? Then the whole refund and payment process is also very bad, right? To give you an idea, like if I'm like totally anglicized, right? Like I'm totally biased in favor of the person who pays me first. But as a mediator, I don't have to know that information, right? So that should be totally abstracted away. All that really matters is that all the parties paid a fee to the mediator, and so the mediation can start. Similarly, if the mediator, you have your appointment, but the mediator has an emergency, cannot, show up for the mediation, then the whole refund process obviously can also be driven by smart contracts. And then the whole thing of having ethical dilemmas, essentially, that mediators often, because there's really no platform that allows mediators just to focus on solving cases, they have to often go out and find their own cases for themselves. So some mediators use excessive social media itself. There's a lot of bias forming there as well. So the solution that that I'm proposing with my team that I assembled over the last week or so, and we're still growing, is essentially we built an online dispute resolution marketplace built on Cardano with a focus on mediation within the US. Within the US, because we have some of our team members are litigators, also mediators. We know the kind of market situation in terms of mediation quite well, and there's actually opportunity to even tie into the court system sooner than I anticipated. Also, my alma mater, where I graduated with a BA in Negotiation, Conflict Resolution, and Peace Building, already confirmed that they are willing to, they are committed to certify their alumni of the Negotiation, Conflict Resolution, and Peace Building program, and also future graduates that are seen to be fit as mediators. So we have the supply side pretty much set already. So that's kind of like a very broad, diffuse intro, but I hope that gave you some ideas. And what I want to achieve during this hackathon is we're working on a couple of designs, talking about user experience, all that kind of stuff that drives the success of the marketplace in the first place. But we are also hoping to write already some of the smart contracts. In Plutus, we can get away with Marlowe, of course, but Plutus is where it's at in the future for us anyway, because there will be more interesting use cases. And I talk way too much. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for being the first one to share an idea. I have a, question. You said you've already started putting together a team and stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about the skill sets that you have now inside your team, and then the skill sets that you're hoping to find during the hackathon or beyond the hackathon even?
Yeah, absolutely. So when the registration opened, right, it's like I had the idea for quite a while because I saw the need, and I was wondering, is Cardano something that can be utilized for this, right? And then I started learning a little bit more about Prism, and then of course now with Fund3 having a challenge there, I think the time is right. So my team is comprised of industry professionals. So they're mediators. We have one mediator that I'll meet with in 30 minutes. She's also a developer, a junior developer right now. We have a couple of front-end developers, full-stack developers, so we are pretty safe on the traditional quote-unquote web stack. We have a couple of people, myself including, who have been Plutus pioneers of the first cohort or are doing the second cohort, but we would definitely need more experts when it comes to writing Haskell and Plutus. Definitely, that's a need that we have. We have a phenomenal UI designer who is giving herself too little credit for UX, but there might also be an opportunity for UX. We have two great project and product managers. So yeah, Plutus, Haskell developers, and maybe a person who can help us with UX would be wonderful as well.
And have you, forgive me, so many things are running together. Have you posted this idea on the website yet, on the pitch area?
Yeah, I just posted that, I think, yesterday. So it's called Win-Win.
anyone out there, seeing, listening, sees this and wants to connect and talk more with Matthias, you can find his pitch on Ada Makerspace under the Hackathon tab. And it's a great way to connect there. But then also, encourage, to continue to attend the brainstorming sessions throughout the Hackathon, because that's really going to be the scheduled brainstorming sessions are going to be the opportunity where that other people are coming around specifically to collaborate. And so a great opportunity where you might run into some devs there. And I noticed that there was also, let's see, Sebastian shared about
Claros.io. Yeah, and then thank you, Randall. Also, I'll be reaching out to you as well. So I'm getting already a lot of out of this. So I encourage anybody else to pitch their idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matthias, I also got a question. So what I was wondering is, can you explain again what the ethical dilemma is and how this marketplace exactly solves this? And then the other question I would have is, you said it's problematic that the profession itself is maybe not as clearly defined, or there's a problem in the trust in the credentials. So are you now already working with universities, as you said, to tackle that problem? Because the platform itself won't solve this problem alone, right?
Yeah. You mentioned a couple of things. So the ethical dilemmas, for example, right? So one of the things is that one is not too much of an ethical dilemma, the actual, the payment process, right? But it is problematic in that, you already there's a potential for a form bias, right? So mediators should not have to run after the money in the first place. So that's where smart contracts come into place, right? Because it's bias forming. The ethical dilemma that you have is like, well, as a mediator, what you want, and this is also, I guess, more of a benefit for marketplaces that bring customers to service providers, right, or to suppliers. But the dilemma here is really that I've seen some very questionable behavior from mediators that I know are capable of running a good mediation, but for me, really good mediators are kind of like the DevOps of developing. If you're really great at that, to me, it makes no sense. Like DevOps for me is not to keep the lights on, right? DevOps is you set up CI/CD, and now the developers are empowered to just focus on writing on code, and the infrastructure is already, the rules are set up, the infrastructure is set up to handle like any deployment and issues regarding that. And the same is true for mediators. For certain types of mediators, like transformative mediators, because not only are you focused on solving, well, first of all, you're not solving your client's problems. You allow the parties to find a solution on their own. And within that process, there's also often something relational repair that is happening, right? So the parties do start acknowledging each other, which is very different than an adversarial court process, like in litigation, right? They're enemies. And what that means essentially that at least for those two people or multiple clients, there's also mediations with more than just two parties, because you do that relationship repair, they are now better equipped to handle the problems on their own in the future. You will not have repeat clients. So what that leads to is that you as a mediator, who this is your passion and profession, you have to find your clients on your own. So you have to engage sometimes in like reaching out to people and engaging with what would be potential and future clients. You already built a connection. Ideally, it's not that you do not know nothing about your clients, but you don't have that personal connection, because again, the bias is a really huge issue in mediation. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe you can really, keep those things separate, but in the perception of the parties, it's like, hey, I see you liking my opponent's post more often on social media than mine. Silly stuff like that.
Sorry to interrupt you, but what you're talking about is bringing up a question. So wouldn't then, and maybe this is what you're trying to do with smart contracts, is are you planning that your marketplace is going to randomly select those, so that way, right, if I would need something mediated, I'm going to post that on you, and then your company is going to find me a mediator that has no connection to either one of the parties automatically.
Yeah, so it's not going to be random, because some mediators are better fit for some cases than others, right? And ultimately, it's also parties have to be empowered. I worked extensively with recommendation engines, and in my day job, I do something similar. So I work with graph databases, essentially find the best connections, right? So you have multiple points, find the best connection to another point, right? So you can identify like certain mediators, and then party A says, okay, these are my top 3 picks within the 10 proposed, or something like that. And then you can invite the other party, and in that instance, the other party makes their rank choice, right? And then that's how you find your mediator amongst the available mediators, because time is also something of the essence. I hope that cleared that up. The other thing that Jakob mentioned was the whole thing about certification. So yes, I am so essentially a mediator on our platform. We are essentially, initial partner is CSUDH, California State University, Dominguez Hills. And they have a bachelor's, they have a master's program, right? So initially the Masters of Dispute Resolution, right? The mediators, or the graduates of the program, right? They are fit to be mediators. So mediator makes a claim, hey, I went to that school, right? And then the school would essentially certify, yes, that person went through school. Now that does not mean, right, necessarily they're quote unquote a mediator in the broader sense of things, because in the space, I know the Southern California Mediations Association, which is the biggest one in California where I'm based in, they've been trying to come up with a standard for several years. And there are some other issues regarding politics, kind of like mini lobbyists that I should probably not mention while this is being recorded. But it's a complex issue. But it's still, parties have the assurance that, okay, well, this mediator, graduated from that school, or there's some form of, yes, they are certified to be a mediator, right? How exactly the user-facing site will look like, we're gonna just test it, right? But yes, it is true that we'll bring on certified mediators on this platform first. Certified being certified by the university.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anyone else have an idea they want to share, or tool they're working on, something they're thinking about doing on Cardano that they would like to get some feedback on?
4 hands. Sebastian was second.
Yeah, Sebastian is the next one.
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, we
Okay.
can hear you.
So basically, the problem I'm trying to solve is that the internet, as it now exists, was conceived to distribute information very well and freely. But when you try to add value to that information, things break and become complicated. And so right now, the people that are suffering most of this thing are content creators and internet influencers, that once they have built their audience and they're trying to sell their premium content to their public, they face a lot of barriers from the market. For example, one of the biggest ones at the moment is that platforms like Twitch and YouTube actually take between 50 and 55% of the tips you give to the content creator. Another platforms like Patreon or Subscribestar take between 25 and 30% of the money you send them. And on top of that, you have hidden bank fees and disadvantageous exchange rates. For example, if you are someone who supports a content creator in the United States and you are outside the United States, the bank actually chooses the worst exchange rate between what you are donating and your local money. So the content creator and you are losing a lot of money in that way. So right now, what I'm trying to create is a platform for content creators that can distribute their content via the blockchain. I believe the two main formats will be useful, both fungible and non-fungible tokens. Fungible tokens would obviously be for things like promotions or giveaways, and non-fungible tokens will be to distribute media data that can be backed up by the metadata in the blockchain and the reference in the distribution contracts. So that's basically my idea so far.
Hey, that's a great idea. I'd like to comment on that, mostly because Adosia was an ad tech initiative before we pivoted into IoT. So I got a lot of experience in the space. The biggest problem you're going to have is the chicken and the egg problem. And what I mean by that is that you got a platform, you're going to need to get the content creators to get the content there, but that's not really the issue. You got a monetization issue. So you're going to need the content consumers, which are going to generate the traffic. That's what's going to generate the revenue. But on the back end, you need a programmatic source to complement it. When I first started Adosia, my first customer was an e-commerce site, and I didn't have advertisers to back it up. So I ended up, I got a pretty nice sized publisher that was driving a whole lot of traffic, and they were expecting to generate ad revenue. And so what I ended up having to do is I had to buy it for a couple months until I scrambled to get a programmatic backend in place. So I went and partnered with like Google and Yahoo and all these other guys that display ads just based on what the user is seeing. So that component is still probably going to be there. And those VCPMs, if you're going directly to your DMPs, you can get in the range of maybe $8, $10, or at least that's what I was. And yeah, Google was taking half of that on YouTube. So, but they're covering the bandwidth cost too. So that's the thing you want to look for, is you got to figure out those bandwidth costs and how that's being served. If that's like decentralized, you're doing some crazy decentralized storage and offloading that, and that's pretty cool too. But I guess what I was trying to get at from a high level, if you need demand, try to approach the big ad exchanges, things like that, OpenX, Index Exchange, AppNexus, kind of a platform, something like that. And you might be able to create your whole back end, monetize it yourself, and not have to deal with the advertisers, because you need the revenue from somewhere. Ultimately, you can do a token incentive phase to start, and use the tokens to incentivize early on to displace revenue. But at some point, you're going to want to integrate a revenue component. Just give you an example with Adosia, like, IoT data, we could monetize that, certain geographical data, moisture sensor, temperature, and we'll incentivize that for a period, but ultimately we're just going to plug it to a DMP. And so we can monetize it programmatically with real world. So I'm happy to answer questions. I've just thought a whole lot about this type of stuff.
So you're basically saying the main revenue model for this type of that would be through advertising, and I was thinking more of fees charged between the content sold.
Who's going to buy it? Oh, okay, so we're talking premium content as opposed to view. So not low traffic. Okay, I missed
more
that.
like a decentralized Patreon that by YouTube, I guess.
Let me ask a question. How many people here are pay for premium content today?
Well, I do.
I don't.
I don't.
Once in a while, like if there's something
no, we can't discredit his market based on.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just wondering how big a market it is.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely a market.
The size of the market, it is estimated in 2021 is $13.8 billion in the US.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess your chicken and the egg is going to be getting the content that's premium and pairing that with users that want to buy it. So it's a little bit different. Okay. So you still got a chicken and the egg to deal with.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in chat, Matthias says he's a YouTube Premium user, and I guess I mean, I'm a YouTube Premium user too, but I don't do it to get premium content on YouTube. I watch free content. I just watch it without commercials now. So, how are you? I mean, are you looking to model this as like, I'm just making sure I understand this correctly. I'm a content creator that has like maybe trading insights or whatever, and you would pay to access my trading knowledge or something.
I mean, content creators build their audience in the public channels like YouTube, Twitch, and that kind of stuff, right? And when they're trying to monetize their audience, they go to the premium channels like Patreon, subscribes, or OnlyFans, that kind of stuff. So what I'm trying to tap is that market, the premium content market, the Patreon stuff.
You know what? The way I would maybe present it or potentially get it is if you go after the content creators themselves, they already have audiences, and then what you could possibly do is tie a token incentive model, like a referral model, and say, hey, I'm gonna give you a referral code, and for everybody you refer that signs up and gives me an email address, I'm gonna give you X tokens, something like that.
Yeah.
And that might, at least, it's not the end all be all, but if you look at things like that, your whole goal is you want a viral coefficient greater than 1, meaning every new user that comes onto your platform, you want them to bring on 1 or more new users. And that's what's going to help your ecosystem grow. So there's all kinds of ways to do that. But yeah, if you're targeting end customers, like if one of your eggs has a lot of reach, figure out how to leverage that. I think that's something I would kind of focus on if it were me.
Tyler makes an interesting point. He says, find creators that have been banned or delisted, deplatformed.
Or scare ones that haven't been, because everybody's scared of it.
Yeah,
a lot of people
that's a big problem in YouTube and those kind of platforms that, they change their rules arbitrary, and some days you're in, some days you're out. That's a good point.
Before we asking someone else, what about your skills, your team skills, or what kind of team skills you're looking for? So we see you have it already posted on your idea on the AdaMaker Hackathon website. So how can people, how can they help you? What kind of skills are you looking for?
Well, it's a very recent idea, so I actually haven't built a team. That's one of the main reasons I came to the Hackathon, is to meet different people that maybe we can form a team together. As for me, I've been a blockchain developer for about a year. I'm very green and still at it. I went to the Plutus Pioneer program, and I'm right now going through the Alonso Purple exercises, but yeah, it's like ramming to a wall of bricks for me. So I'm not sure if I could be tech lead in that aspect, but at least I understand the technology in a basic way.
Any other feedback or questions for Sebastian before we give someone else an opportunity? Well, if you're interested in working or giving feedback on this idea, you can find the proposal on the Ada Makerspace. Anyone else in here have something they're interested in working on, or they're working on and looking for feedback, or building a team, or floor's open?
Hey, really quick, Boone. I just wanted to ask really quick. How do we jump into the virtual hackathon space? Do we just go to Ada Makerspace and then click on hackathon and we can get in there? Or
yeah, and so the virtual event space, the link can be found from the schedule on the hackathon page, and it's really open, 24/7, be open during the event, and it's just like an open expo space for people to explore, learn about some of the sponsors and things that are going on, and then also, it's a place that you can collaborate and meet up with others. I'll show you where the link is for that real quick too. Oh, I'm not signed in here on this one, but you can register for the event. And let me actually see if I can share my screen and show.
I just had a little run round in there, but just the head of the avatar loaded, so it was pretty scary.
Well, let's see what I get. Hold on, I get my screen share.
So do we get to
Ooh,
make our
I
own
think we still have
avatars?
some more people wanting to pitch their idea here. Like Vincent, Jason, and Rob.
Okay, that's, yeah, let's we can always do this after the
Awesome. Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to get that out there for people that are watching this. Let's get back to the ideas though.
Yeah.
So Vincent, maybe.
Hey, sure. My idea is kind of, it's still pretty nebulous. People seem to get it after I explain it for a while, but it can take a second. So a while back on idea scale, I put up a sensing problem that there weren't any governance primitives. I didn't like the fact that the way people were designing DAOs was pretty nebulous. They weren't very verifiable. Deployment wasn't well structured. And so when people were voting on DAOs, they really didn't know what they were voting on. It's mostly just pretty PowerPoints. And so I started to ask the question, well, what if, would it be possible to write a framework to where if you coded things in a certain way, you could extract a visualization, like a graph of the DAO that was meaningful, that was an exact representation of the underlying code. So I did a POC in Python, and it does work. You can create these, if you code things in a very specific, very strict way. It's certainly not the most efficient, but maybe for a formal system, maybe it doesn't need to be the most efficient. It just needs to do what you want it to. You can extract these really pretty graphs. Also, when you code it in this certain way and you define it in a certain way, you can actually dock DAOs together. And so we did we went further, and we kind of did a little reputation system where you've got people that are putting in engagements over in one part and another place where they're rating each other, and then docking the two together to create a system where you can read from multiple data sources and stuff like that. It worked. It was really interesting. And there seems to be like broad support for the idea of creating this kind of multi-tiered approach to crafting DAOs and crafting blockchain or hybrid applications, where you can have a visual layer, a framework layer, and then compilation and simulation layers that kind of flows through, so people can engage at whatever level they feel comfortable with, and know that what they do on one level has direct components in all of them downstream, all the way to production. And also, if you vote on the visualization layer, you know you're also voting on a very strict framework. You know how things are connected, and you're also voting on. You're also going to be voting on its implementation, because you'll know exactly how it's going to be implemented. Anyway, the part that the visualization part is more of iconography, and I think it's really cool. I hope we can bring on some artists that can work with us. Right now, I'm hoping to have conversations in more of like the theoretical CS space about the framework itself and what the governance primitives are. And it's been a back and forth. Like, so people would design a system and say, okay, this is how the system would work. And then we actually go try to build it using these very strict actor resource models and very strict argument signatures and stuff like that, and realize that it doesn't work the way people think it does. And you have to add more primitives. And I think it would be fun to have, to start taking some of the primitives we know we're going to need and start building their simulation analogs. So going back to the beginning, the goal is to have a layered framework where you can visually compile a DAO, you can simulate it on demand, and you can compile it to code on the system and resources on the system, so you can actually check its behavior. And that compilation step, where if somebody defines in the visual layer, say they drop in a wallet, say I have a person, this person is signified by a wallet. What does that actually mean for the framework layer? Well, maybe say that's a class and it has some attributes, and those attributes are an address, a public and a private key. And then down in the actual implementation layer, this is the simulation, the compilation layer. Now we actually need to go out into a testnet and bring in the CLI and create the public private key pair, create the wallet, get it on chain, and then pass it back up and store it on the system. And so building the primitives all the way from top to bottom so that we can drop in an image of something and know that that means a very specific data structure that can be implemented in any language, but then also can be compiled and simulated on device with a testnet. I was talking with Roberto and some other people over at Gimbal Labs yesterday, and they're happy to let us use the Dandelion testnet for this. So I don't know if that makes sense, but my goal here is to say, okay, what primitives, what components like atomic components are there for blockchain and hybrid blockchain applications? What are they? And if you can imagine all the way from the top, from the picture that you would put on a PowerPoint to the code that would have to represent that for it to be valid, to the implementation that you could actually run in simulation. Can you imagine that chain? And can we do that for a few things and just start sketching out what that looks like? So that now when we start going to connect things together, the functional connections, the edges on the graphs that get built will actually work all the way up and down. So that when you see a person connected to an oracle or an interface, you can actually see, we can actually start seeing how that would be spun up on the system and start building that simulation engine that can spin up all these services and create protected files and encrypted files, or something like the Hadron thing is really interesting because that could be a very nice way of creating and managing actors for the simulated network. That uses block frost, but I mean, there's a lot of opportunity there.
Vince, do you mind if I tag in?
Yeah, that's it. I'm done.
The big takeaway that I got when we were talking about
I can barely hear you, Randall.
Oh, my apologies. Is this any better?
Yep, thank you.
Oh, sweet. The big takeaway that I got when we were talking about this is the notion that we're not just talking about on-chain stuff. We're talking about on-chain and off-chain components that need to fit together for practical purposes. And maybe that consists of an offline database and an oracle that serves on-chain. And when we can express all of these things that need to fit together in a way that's verifiable, like Plutus smart contracts are verifiable on-chain, but with regard to the stuff that crosses the on-chain off-chain boundary, that's where the power is. And I think that maybe didn't come across yet, so I wanted to point real specifically to that part of the story.
Totally, and that's one of the things that I think when I started doing the POCs that becomes most difficult to model in a formal way is when you have things that are on chain and off chain. Actually compiling them into a verifiable graph that represents that is really, really hard. And when you start to structure things together, suddenly you realize that a lot of these DAOs have just tons of injections. There's tons of security problems and tons of just implementation details that aren't specified, and people aren't voting on what they think they are, just because it's not laid out that way. But specifically, this is one important piece, and that's I want somebody to be able to import wallet from a library, and then say create new wallet random or something like that. And when that gets compiled, when the simulation engine runs, it can run an executable, or it can send commands directly to a Cardano CLI and create the wallet, create all that stuff, and then store it with the DAO simulation assets, right? So that you can actually start creating, because one of the problems too with DAOs is that there's really no good simulation framework for the on-off chain interactions, latency problems. You don't know if you're going to get race conditions. You don't know. it's really, I'm not happy with how DAOs are presented, built, structured, and formalized. And I think if we can start just piecing together, okay, I want a wallet, I want a person, I want a wallet, I want a data source that's encrypted, I want a database, I want a NoSQL database that has a schema that looks like this. Okay, that's a component, that's an atomic component. What does that mean for the visualization layer? It's just like a pretty picture, okay. What's that mean for how you represent it in the actual framework of the code? And then in the simulation layer, what's that mean for spinning it up and connecting it and accessing it? So if you're going to spin up a Postgres database on the system, okay, suddenly you need to start, putting in a schema and putting in a password and all that good stuff. And I think by doing a few of these and just seeing what the problems are across the visualization to the framework to the simulation layer, start getting a better sense of what's going to be required for the larger proposal on the 19th. And hopefully be very helpful in people's library efforts, like actually developing libraries and developing tools across multiple.
Being able to experiment with the parameters that might go into bonding curves and other stuff that's like fundamental to the way your DAO is structured is another interesting thing. Being able to run some Monte Carlo simulations, run these scenarios 20 different times and see, ooh, this one has a weird effect that we wouldn't want. Let's include the learnings from that scenario and carve that off of the way we're modeling the parameters for our DAO.
Yeah, absolutely. And the simple game that I proposed for this first POC, the first proposal, is actually a telephone game where we have three actors who send a message in a circle. And we want to know how long it'll take until they're out of ADA. So if you give 3 people 1 ADA and you give them a message, how long will it take for them to sending it in a round robin to run out of money? There's no way, just three nodes, 3 lines. There really is no way to just spin that up and test it and to say, I know how many times this system can run or what the cost of a loop is in this system. So I think it'd be cool if we could start with these very simple kind of toy games with very few primitives and see what comes of it. I don't know if anything will. I have a feeling that some will, but no guarantees. But it's very theoretical, very like computer sciencey, all over the place with kind of bringing over deployments and cross-language. You're executing binaries from whatever language you're using, and a lot of the libraries that like CLI is in one language, so you bring it over as a binary. You have to call it. How you can do that? So bringing that simulation layer and starting to understand the complexities with the simulation part, I think would be a lot of fun if you're into that kind of thing.
Very cool. What are the kind of skill sets already existing and skill sets needed?
Skill sets needed would be great if anybody knew some game theory and maybe had gone through the Plutus Pioneers program, not necessarily to write Plutus, but just to be a consultant on the primitives and say, you have to have these components for a Plutus contract or a Marlowe contract to be valid. Like this won't work, this won't compile without having these kind of components. So a primitive will be useless effectively if it doesn't look a certain way. And so somebody that has just kind of been in that space or is kind of aware of that would be great. Anybody that's got any CS experience or just likes to kind of spitball frameworks, has been in and out of libraries, everything from JavaScript to C#, C++. That's just willing to start looking at a very strict framework. That's not necessarily the most fun to work in, but gives us the ability of creating graphs from function signatures. It's a little bit different than kind of going down the parse trees and compiler paths that I think a lot of people are used to. We're actually creating a framework where you have to code in a very certain way in order to get these graphs out, in order to ensure that you have these kind of like simple edges and directionality and stuff like that.
Nice. I don't know if you saw it, but Quinn shared a link, and maybe he wants to just give you a little reference.
I see it. Fund5. Yeah, thank you. But yeah,
Can't
right
hear you,
now we're just
Quinn.
looking for anybody that's willing to talk. So CS stuff and then implementation. I'm pretty comfortable in a few languages. For Hackathon for the next little while, I'm happy to do a lot of the brunt work. For the actual proposal, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to try to bring in people on each layer. I want to do the iconography. I want people that are very focused on the simulation and deployment, kind of package that, make sure that that's working, and pick a few trusted providers for things like emulating on-chain and off-chain data sources and stuff like that.
Yeah, hey, Vincent, I don't know if I think I fixed my microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah. That link I sent you is like, how do you simulate a virtual blockchain on a complete graph? But you can actually apply it to sparse graphs as well. And that might actually align a lot with what you're trying to do if you're trying to simulate essentially how you interact on a fake virtual chain. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you more about actually how you actually are working out these simulations of DAO networks.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think this is great. One of the things that we did come across is when I was looking at simulations is that there's a problem with not using, if you have an on-chain asset and you have a function that requires inputs on and off chain, you have to say check an asset. You really do need to go to a testnet for that, because you end up with latency considerations in the DAO that may have weird effects. That in a complicated system, you don't know how that's going to behave, and that's why something like Dandelion is, or like Blockfrost, like these tools that let you communicate with the chain via API are so helpful. But yeah, I'm reading through it. Super interesting. Thank you. I'd be happy to talk about it. Let me I'll dump my information in chat.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you for sharing, Vincent. Let's open up the floor to another pitch. Anyone raring to go? Jason, looks like you're coming off mute.
Yeah, why not? I hope everybody can hear me okay.
Sound good.
Awesome. Hi, to everybody. First off, I want to say it's always amazing to me, like these small communities like that come together on the internet. It's like pretty wild that 20, 30 people from all over the world will just like meet up and be able to talk about stuff like this, share ideas. So that's great. Pretty much where the angle I'm coming from is I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a developer myself. So I'm relatively limited in terms of like knowledge when it comes to coding and actually building the tech side of these protocols on top of Cardano or any other cryptocurrency. But the idea is it's pretty simple and it's not reinventing the wheel. I think it's clear to me and everybody else who kind of follows the music industry at all that NFTs are going to be a big game changer in terms of like how business is done in music, because now for the first time ever, musicians can, create a song, album, and sell them directly to their fans at like mass scale online on an NFT marketplace, instead of like having people pay for subscriptions on streaming platforms, buy CDs, however else we've done it in the past. So I think it's pretty clear that that's going to happen. And one such example I even saw yesterday, there was like a rapper from Toronto, Tory Lanez, who made an album and sold it as an NFT for the first time. Sold 1 million copies in like a minute for $1 each. And so it's just wild to think of like the business things that can come out of blockchain and all of these new technologies, especially on Cardano. And that's kind of where my idea comes in, is there are NFT marketplaces for this, but none have been built on Cardano yet, considering it's still very early days with smart contracts. And I actually I'm here with a friend of mine, he's my business partner, David. But we grew up in Chicago. We're still like pretty young, like 24, but it happens to be that we've got some like relationships with some musicians from Chicago and elsewhere throughout the States. So that if we actually had a working product and we had a working NFT marketplace, we're pretty confident on our end that yeah, we're pretty confident about it on our end that we could bring on some like pretty big name musicians. Not going to name names necessarily now because I don't think that they would want us to be just like throwing their names out there. But if we kind of get into more private discussions, I could definitely talk about those details. But it's pretty simple business plan. From there on out is when we can get more musicians on the site selling their stuff. Obviously, the site will grow too. And I think overall, Cardano is the blockchain moving forward that like these marketplaces will best run on as compared to the ones on Ethereum and whatever else now. So again, pretty much just an entrepreneur. I'm looking to build a small team of developers, and I guess I could kind of leave the floor open to any questions. Pretty simple pitch, but that's really what it is.
Hey, Jason. I'm also a musician in the Chicagoland area, and
really,
yeah, and I love this project that you're working on. I wanted to ask you. I'm sure you're familiar with Audius that's on Ethereum, but are you familiar with the project that's already underway for this exact same music market that you're talking about? It's called Noom, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Muse stake pool, but perhaps like I think they'd probably be open to collaborating with you. I'm a huge advocate of like people joining forces to like, so like you're gonna bring possibly other musicians that you know in the area, and then like your skills, and then like if we can get a lot of people collaborating together, I think we can really change like the music industry, because it's ripe for disruption. I think
Ron,
you know
nailed it, man. Yeah, you had the same idea I did. You know, we when you engage with the Cardano community, kind of know what everybody's working on. You work real close together, and you know, I'm engaged with the Noom guys too. And
oh, they can hear you, Kyle. Might just be me, but it seems very.
Yeah, you're a little soft right now.
Is that better, guys?
Wait,
there we go.
Yeah,
Speaking in the mic for us.
Yeah. Okay, so the Noom guys, Mark Stock is helping on the back end. They've got some technical expertise there, and it's moving and it's in motion. And so,
wait, what is it? It's Noom, like NOOM?
NEWM.
NEWM.
Yeah, I think that's it. But what I'm thinking is a token incentive model, or some incentive model that's going to incentivize you and your partner to bring that business in. You see what I'm saying? Somehow, some way. Mm-hmm. So I'll take that back and we'll talk to the team, and I guess we'll figure out a way to chat after this and see what makes sense. But I agree, Ron. You nailed it on the head, dude. So
definitely. Yeah, I think collaborating is always good too. I think more people working on it, more ideas are going to be flown and stuff. So that
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Never anything bad about it.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you happen to know? So that other project, are they like running this marketplace? Are they going to be using like ADA as the native token, or are they launching a new token on top of Cardano?
I haven't really got too into depth with where they are right now. I'm having a meeting with Mark, and I'm actually going to get more involved in this project personally. More so likely on the tokenomics side, because that's kind of what I do as far as deriving models. But basically what they're looking at doing is NFTing components of the music, so individuals can have, you know, purchase equity in rights. And so that's kind of to kind of get the musicians away from the major labels and, you know, get more control of their music and whatnot. So it's the vision, I think, and the desire is unanimous. And if you're confident you can bring in the business,
that's kind of where we're coming from.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm confident the guys already here can bring in the back end technology, and it's a perfect match. And so I can't promise anything for them because it's not my project, but I'll definitely reach out, and Ron will reach out, and we'll see if we can't get back to you.
For sure. I haven't used Zoom too much. Is there any way I could get your information, or do you have
Telegram
mine or something?
Are you on Telegram? Okay. Yeah,
Adosia
Wolf. Yeah, my handle is Adosia Wolf. ADOSIAWOLF. I will put that in my name here so you can see it on Zoom.
And if you put anything in the chat too, I will. I'll post chat to with the YouTube too, so people can follow up on what was happening in the chat when they watch this video later on. So anyone that wants to be reached out for things, you know, please include it in the chat, and that way others can reach out and watch this video later on.
Okay, yeah, might as well do that now.
Yeah, that sounds like a good fit. You know, if someone's already building the wagon and you can bring people to ride in that wagon.
Yeah, that's honestly like the ideal outcome that just kind of happened. But yeah, that's great. Okay, so I'll definitely check out Project Moon. That's awesome. Thank you guys for that.
Any other feedback or questions for Jason?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Have you thought about, I guess, creating NFTs for actual individual components of the song? So like for each sample or each beat of a track, and then creating scarcity around the different parts of a possible song, and then someone who wanted to create like a mix or a larger composition would then be incentivized to buy those different parts, because eventually those parts would run out, and then create a new track based off of individual NFT pieces.
Oh, that's so interesting.
That's a really good thought. I haven't thought about that specifically, but like what that question made me think of now is like there's a lot of producers. Actually, my friend, like his cousin is like an up and coming producer in LA. So he makes like beats online, and then like he'll collaborate with like a rapper or something. They'll rap over his beats. And so for a guy like him, what you were just saying, like that could definitely be like an option there. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, there is a huge market already, just on Web 2.0. I forgot the name of the website, but it's just like a beat marketplace. But it's kind of like, I don't know, it's Web 2.0. It's so much more interesting with Web 3.0.
Exactly. And that's what's interesting about this. It's not a totally revolutionary idea. Like Spotify was kind of this in Web 2.0, you know what I mean? And like, I think the music industry in general, whether it's going to be something that we build or someone else, will probably transition to an NFT marketplace where people are getting their music from, you know? And like, yeah, it's all good ideas. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
No, but you gave me another idea. I'm gonna go talk back with Noom and see where they're at, and then I'm gonna go talk to the token guys, because I know Lathizon's building out an NFT marketplace and they're screaming. So
okay, awesome. I'll hit you up on Telegram.
Do that. I definitely want to follow up with you. Make sure you find what you need here. Yeah,
definitely. Well, there aren't any other questions. Yeah, thank you for letting me give that little pitch here. That's awesome.
Hey, FYI, Jason, people don't let anybody do anything in Cardano. You do what you want to do.
All right. All right. I like that mentality. I like that. Well, I'm happy I was able to meet you guys. Thank you. I'm gonna head out.
Floor is open. Anyone have something to idea, tool, anything? This is your time to really make connections and get feedback. Mitch, I'm going to call you out because you have a idea posted on the website. You don't want to talk about it?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Now we can.
There we go. All right. I had to mess around a little bit. New mic. Yeah, so I posted an idea. It's not that new of an idea. It's been done before. It's a decentralized virtual private network. I mean, there's been numerous examples on different blockchains, like Sentinel. It's one that's on the Cosmos network. Orchid and Mysterium, they're on Ethereum. And then there's other smaller ones like Tachyon and Deeper Network. But essentially, I think it's a good idea it's a rising industry with decentralized VPN, where you don't have to trust a traditional centralized VPN provider to basically handle all your information. So, yeah, like history has shown that these VPN providers, they are vulnerable to exploits either internally or externally, where they say they don't collect any data, but then they turn around, sell your private information to other companies so they can spam you with emails.
What is it? How do you think that Cardano can improve this, the VPIN space?
Well, bringing a DVPN to Cardano would allow people, it's essentially to allow payment for the VPN service with Cardano. And Cardano itself is a very decentralized network of nodes, and you can try to get these node operators to share their bandwidth with other people, and monetize essentially their node operation. It's different than the stake pools.
Gotcha.
And then for this decentralized VPN, to make it different from the other services that I've seen, I was looking to add some additional features like network slicing, basically taking chunks of your bandwidth and splitting it up across different nodes. So like in a traditional VPN service where all your data essentially goes to one server, you could, since Cardano's network is so decentralized, you could split up all your traffic across all these different types and all these different nodes, becoming, and you're essentially obfuscating your internet network broadband, and then also having stuff like multi-hops where multi-hops would be more like the Tor network, but not as complicated as the Tor network, where the user could specify how many nodes that the internet traffic wants to hop over before it reaches out into the network or the website it's trying to reach. So then that further hides the your traffic data for anyone trying to go back and relocate, who originally sent it out, mainly people who live in other countries that are trying to essentially control information that's putting out on the internet, like China. Or
Gotcha.
As for what I was looking for in this event is for people to help with the creation of the smart contract, where basically you're setting up a contract with the client and the server provider, and the client pays as they go for using up the bandwidth and how much data they've used. And
so you're talking about, just to make sure I'm tracking with you, you're talking about a smart contract creation, and the smart contract would be creating a contract between someone who's acting as your VPN.
Right. Yeah.
We have questions or feedback for anyone on how you know, questions for Mitch or how that would even, that's a little bit out of my scope for understanding how you could node operators and.
There's some interesting similarities in what I heard you saying with the peer-to-peer network on the IPFS ecosystem, libp2p. Have you looked at that and checked to see whether it might provide maybe some of your primitive infrastructure so that you could leverage that and essentially limit your technical scope to maybe some lightweight gateways or and or integration points, and you know, gain the benefit of what that project has already been doing?
Right. Yeah. Good question. I haven't looked into that specifically. I've looked into other cases, like there's this open source code out there on GitHub called Algo VPN, which basically sets up all the tokens and private keys and does all the handshakes, uses I guess I can post the link in the chat so people can go read in more detail about this. It's very interesting. What you could do right now is go set up your own VPN with the code that I just shared. You set it up with a cloud provider or your own personal server, but it's pretty technical. And what I want to do is create a front end for like someone that's not all into the technical weeds of everything, and they can easily have a guaranteed decentralized VPN service that they can trust and verify.
What you mentioned this having a smart contract created. What were the skills that you're looking for a developer then to help with the smart contract side of things, or also with that GitHub that you shared?
So, well, background on myself, I'm not a computer scientist by experience. In the middle of a career change. I'm currently a mechanical engineer and spent the past several months learning a bunch of different programming skills, including Plutus. I'm in the second cohort of the Plutus pioneers. But yeah, I'm definitely looking for someone to help with the contract creation that's also has a better understanding and has more experience in Haskell and can easily translate to Plutus, and also looking for a network engineer. And if we go down the path of Algo VPN, I know they use Python. So if the network engineer knows anything about Python, that would also be helpful.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Anyone have any last feedback or thoughts for Mitch before we open up the floor again?
That's a really good idea. I think, especially if you can take Ada, I'm always a big fan of people staying in the native asset. And if you can take Ada, I think that only makes the Ada economy a lot stronger, right? Because if we can keep Ada in the ecosystem and get real utility out of it, I think it's really, really great.
Yeah.
With something like this, I think that it's a really good. I'd be curious if anybody has looked at a lot of the other implementations of VPNs on blockchains, and seen what the speed was and how they did things. Like basically, like, I don't know if you're familiar with the Tor browser, right? But if you have a bunch of people that you're constantly routing to, like if you don't know who you're routing to and you're bouncing traffic around or trying to, you end up with this situation where you need like routing relays and stuff.
Right.
And the speed gets weird, right? If you have to route half your packets to get 100 kps out of one guy, and then half over here, and then half over there, and then do aggregations and things. It's super interesting. Super interesting problem. I'm just curious if you've seen how the other VPNs are performing.
I don't, with how far I've looked into it, I don't think a lot of the other VPNs have done the multi-ops, what I'm calling it, but the Tor, where they're jumping around different nodes. So it'd be definitely interesting problem to solve, but I'm looking into that as more of a premium feature where they can, if the user wants to have additional security, they can hop around. They can choose how many nodes they want to hop around, but at default, it'd just be a regular VPN where you have just one server you're connecting to.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really cool idea. I'd be curious to see how performant the other blockchain VPNs are, because you're relying on consumer. A lot of times you're relying on consumer internet providers, and so if you're doing a one-to-one connection, you're only ever going to be as fast as that consumer lets you be, right? So if they're on YouTube or something like that and playing games, I don't know. It's a really interesting problem. I hope you go forward with it and bring one to Cardano.
Right. Yeah. I know Mysterium, they break it up into like commercial, residential, and college. And they have a bunch of different things that someone could connect to, and that is already being provided by someone else if they have access to that internet service.
I have a question. I'm not too technical about virtual private networks, but I'm wondering, isn't that too costly for decentralized networks, or the cost only happens when you have to certify that yes, this machine can take your data and route it through the network? Like every transactions kind of costs here. So if you have a lot of data coming through, you kind of pay yourself like crazy amount of money.
Right. Yeah. So it's that's also going to be an interesting challenge you brought up. I know Mysterium, they do their models, they do pay as you go, where, like you said, you pay for the amount of bandwidth and data that you use, and then I'm not sure if it's the price is market driven or it's predetermined. I have to look into how Mysterium is doing it more, but I've seen there's a bunch of YouTube reviews of people talking about the Mysterium network, and they say they can download an entire movie for less than a cent but yeah, that's an interesting, there's lots of different models that you could do for monetization, but that definitely need to look further into.
Thank you, Mitch, for sharing. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for your feedback and questions. Do we have any other ideas, tools? Tyler, I see your camera turned on. Did you have something you wanted to ask or share?
It's on it now. Oh yeah, I guess it's open. So, can you guys hear me? Or am I breaking off?
Now we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is an IoT idea, and I'll preface it with I don't really know what I'm talking about with IoT. But the idea is we have all these scooters around town in Portland, like those little green scooters. would it be possible to create like a scooter DAO with a IoT trigger of some sort where everyone like buys into their own scooters and it's like a shared scooter IoT thing? Maybe
Well,
someone.
yeah. I mean, we could do some weird stuff. I mean, like, okay, so we got to think about the tokenomics though. So like the whole buying into scooters, that's cool. That works. Users are paying revenue, right? That works. There's a revenue component. Now, what's the IoT component? You see what I'm saying? So what's the value that, what are we doing with the IoT? Is it, does it need to be, is it just simply a Wi-Fi connection where so the users can interact with, you see what I'm saying? What's the inflection point? Maybe we can take it offline and kind of like draw it out. But yeah, I mean, I'm IoT all day, man. I mean, I build hardware, software. I mean, that's what I do. It's my core business.
Yeah, I guess, I don't, maybe it's not even needed, but I mean, you got to rent a scooter with like a phone of some sort. So there's got to be a transaction between and a message from the phone to the scooter.
Well, yeah, that's all using just existing infrastructure. I think it's the actual ownership of the business model. Like I had this conversation, I think, was it on Space Place? Ron, are you still here? I don't know if Ron was there, but I think we talked about like a rideshare app, or maybe it was in a Catalyst discussion group. We talked about like an Uber rideshare app that was being to decentralize it, and it was something very similar. But yeah, I think I don't know if it's IoT like hard requirement, because we could probably get away with off the shelf stuff like scooter you could buy off the shelf ready to go. Maybe there's a box that we have to make. Maybe that's what it is, and it's the interaction box where the payment's received, and it's not really IoT at all from the device to the box. Maybe that's Bluetooth or something, right? Because Bluetooth's already built into the phone. So I don't know how they work today. I mean, do you go and you put a quarter, or do you just use your phone? I haven't used the scooters yet.
Yeah, I used it like a couple times. It's just you actually, because you can't really do microtransactions, you got to buy like a package, like $10 at the minimum to just use a scooter. And then, then it just, you unlock the scooter with your phone, and then you can take it wherever you want. And then you lock it when you leave.
Okay, so is it like the app though? And do you select your location in the app, or is the app pulling your geolocation and then it knows which scooter thing you're at?
The app has your geolocation, which is pulling and has access to. And then when you get near the scooter, you have an option to unlock it at that point. That's the trigger to unlock it.
Okay, so the phone is the IoT device. You don't need, you see what I'm saying? Because then I guess, the scooter box is an IoT device too. So I think the first action is to figure out what kind of manufacturer scooter boxes are out there and what kind of signal we can send them. What we need to figure out is whether or not we got to build that box ourselves or we can buy it off the shelf. And then that's the first step. And I think if you can buy it off the shelf, the rest is software.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really thought about it at all. There was some radio silence, so I just threw something out there.
Well, I think that's the first step, is just looking at the boxes. Yeah, well, that's why we're here, right? Just to talk about it. So we find out what's out there. Yeah, cool.
There's already a company that does private IoT fleets for scooters. This would be like a plug and play thing for blockchain, guys. It literally, we just need an app that allows me to buy ADA to, instead of using fiat to purchase the package, just let me do an ADA transaction and get the fucking scooters. Let's see what that's online.
Sounds like a Hydrant app, yeah?
Sounds like a Hydrant app for,
yeah. Track payment and callback, that's already there.
Floor is open. We might wrap up early if no one else has got any pitches.
I'm just curious I was just going to jump in. One last thing. I'm just curious if anybody's heard of transpilers or like cross-code compilers into Plutus. If I know that there's a lot of talk about we should be writing in Plutus if it's safer, but I'm just curious if anybody's heard of any work looking at like a JavaScript to Plutus or Python to Plutus or anything like that to kind of open it up to more developers.
As someone who does I really enjoy coding in Haskell. You are trying to change like Python code, let's say, like it's you can be made functional, but it's not inherently functional. It would be a little tricky, but I could see it being possible. Like you would have to write some package code that will take in your Python code and then like convert every single function into it. I thought that's what Mune was doing with their Glow code. Actually, it was trying to compile things back into Haskell code.
I hadn't heard of it. You said it was Moon or?
Yeah, it was they did something on the town hall about the Glow code, and maybe I'm recalling it correctly, but I thought it had something to do with writing their own version of a scripting language that compiles down into Haskell. And also I thought IOXK had a JavaScript to at least Marlow, so maybe you could do something like that. It's been a while.
Yeah, there's definitely a JavaScript compiler.
I think you're right, Quinn, about Glow too. It's the Glow language. They're first going into like Plutus in Haskell, and then with the goal to probably expand to other blockchains because they're trying to do that interoperability, write once for multiple blockchains play.
Before we wrap up, I want for everyone that's watching this after the meeting, there's I encourage you, you have to log in, but on the drop down hackathon pitch, once you're logged in, you can create a pitch to get feedback on during the hackathon. And anyone out there can also comment on these pitches and, provide people helpful feedback. You can, make connections if you know someone, that can help in this area, whatever it is, but be sure to reach out to people on their proposals. And also what we were going to cover a little bit ago, throughout this entire event, you can go to the virtual expo space. And this is really just open for all the time. And sometimes there might be people there, sometimes there might not be, but you can check out the booths from our sponsors and learn some other interesting things they've got going on. But really, you can use this space to meet up with anyone during the hackathon as well. So if you want to have collaborations or get this bar out of my face. The Zoom link is right in front of my freaking, I hate when it does that. Does anyone know how to drop the Zoom bar so it's not hovering right over the top of the...
Yeah, normally you can drag and drop to another place. When you go on the top of the menu.
Oh, there's someone here.
Yeah, man.
So this is a virtual environment. You can run around and explore, check out, you can meet with people in different labs. And what will happen when you, let me go back to the main room actually, where there was someone at. So when you are next to someone, if we go over, so in the environment, you'll see these different open stable spaces. You can use these as they'll literally open up like just like a Zoom like environment, so you can collaborate with others. And it's really just a place that will be open, like I said, 24/7. So if you need a place or just want to explore, meet with people, this is a virtual environment that you'll be able to do that in. But I, again, encourage, if you're watching this now and you have something to pitch, visit a makerspace, log in, make your pitch, and show up to throughout the event. We'll have on Zoom, we'll continue meeting like we're meeting, like we met today. And there's scheduled brainstorming sessions throughout the whole event. There's also going to be special Zoom presentations with, well, Quinn's one of them. He's on the call today. He'll be talking about faucets and smart contracts. There's a presentation with, which day is it? The 19th, I think it is. Yep, 19th. There's going to be a meeting specifically with Rob and Adian, who are both game developing in the game space right now in Cardano. So you can learn a lot about game design in the Cardano ecosystem. And there'll probably might be some other people starting to present some different workshops too, maybe along the hackathon. So I just encourage you to keep track of the schedule, come in, check in, see what's going on, make updates on your progress. But there'll always be people from the community that are ready to, provide you helpful feedback and help you get further. And again, Swarm is really here also to support people in taking their learnings from the hackathon and turning them into proposals. So, I would take advantage if you're thinking about being a Fund 6 participant. This is a great opportunity to really come up with a great proposal and have a good chance in this. There's more money in Fund 6 than I think than there's been in all other funds combined. So this is the biggest opportunity in Project Catalyst history. Anyone else have any final thoughts before we wrap up here? Well, thank you all very much for attending today. Appreciate everyone for their insights that they shared and the connections that they're making for other people. So this is how things get done and built, and glad to be building with all of you. Have a good one.
Thanks everybody for putting this together. I appreciate you all.
Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
See ya.